Inside Outer Space. And now your host, Walt Disney.
We hear a lot about far-out musicians, and they really are, you know, way ahead of everybody else. Their songs had us flying all over the world when the Wright brothers were barely off the ground. So when you start hearing songs about something, you can figure that whatever it is, it's about to happen. Love is better the second orbit around. Jupiter baby, never on Venus. Come, Josephine, in my new X-15. When you whoosh upon a star, I found $1 million baby in a used rocket lot. The capsule goes round and round and so forth. Now, judging by all of this, we'll soon see the tired businessman blasting off to the moon for a few craters of golf. We got a little space music of our own cooking up. A little ditty we call Rocket Full of Dreams. Can we hear it, kids?
Faraway places, way out in space.
Galaxies, planets, and stars.
Those faraway places are calling to me.
Mercury, Venus, and Mars. I dream about owning rockets someday with 10 million tons of thrust. And way up above we will orbit in love in a pressurized cottage for two.
Like I said, musicians and songwriters are pretty far out. But in just a minute now, we're going to meet somebody who has scooped even the songwriters. While they've been writing just one song about space, he's written a whole book on the subject. It tells you where to go, how to get there, and what you'll see, and just about everything in between. The author is none other than the world-famous authority on outer space, Professor Ludwig Von Drake.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, Saturn, Venus, Pluto, Mars, out in outer space so high, your next door neighbors in the sky. You want to see what your neighbors are doing? I'll move over so you can have a look. I don't know about you, but I just saw stars I've never seen before. And you people out there are going to see stars you have never seen before either when you go traveling in outer space. In fact, there's going to be a lot of things out there you don't know about. But don't let it bother you, because all the answers is right in here. Professor Von Drake has written the first space travel guide. As you can see from the size of it, space is a big place. Whew. I call my guidebook Inside Outer Space, because everything known about outer space is on the inside. Which reminds me, the way things are going, you better get your copy right away before it becomes obsolete and the prices go up. Well, anyway, my book tells you what planets to visit, the type of accommodations to expect, what kind of hotels they got up there, and what to wear, and how much luggage you're permitted to take, and how to get along with the natives, or whatever it is they got out there. But let's start at the beginning on page 1, where man didn't know anything about outer space. The only space he was concerned with was inside his cave, where there was food and friendship. With the sun came the day, bringing warmth and light. With the stars came the night, bringing darkness and fear. But eventually, he got over the fear, and the stars fascinated him. He thought they was alive. Maybe the moon's kiss breaking away when the moon grew smaller. Then he saw that he was seeing the same bunches of stars over and over again. Where had they come from? And where were they going? Aha! an important discovery. The stars fell into the sea. The Earth was an island floating in water, circled by a glittering ring of heavenly objects. As man learned to till the soil, he associated the stars with events of good and evil. When the bull was in the heavens, he planted his crops. This was good. Aquarius, the water carrier, brought the rain. This was also good. With the virgin of the harvest, the crops were gathered. This was very good. But Draco the dragon brought pestilence and famine. Ooh, this was evil. Then man began to build cities with towers to bring him closer to the heavens. Man became an astronomer, like me. No, not like me, because he still didn't know what was going on up there yet. He thought the Earth must be flat with its roots deep in celestial space. Later he changed the roots to stone pillars so that the stars wouldn't get tangled up in their nightly trip. Then elephants were substituted because of their great strength. Eventually, under the elephant, he put a gigantic tortoise to pull the universe through cosmic space at a snail's pace. The Egyptians drew the Earth as a reclining figure with the star-filled sky bending over the top. Shu, the god of air, kept them apart, while the sun and the moon sailed back and forth in a small boat. The great Greek philosophers gave the world many profound conceptions of Earth and space. Plato said,
I have found the Earth to be the perfect shape of a cube, standing in the center of the universe, with all other heavenly bodies scattered round and about.
Anaxagoras had this to say,
Being in the center of the universe, the Earth is assailed by the rotating ether, which tears away bits of Earth, flinging them outward, setting them afire, creating stars and planets.
Then there was Aristarchus.
Gentlemen, I disagree. The sun is obviously in the center, with the Earth and other planets traveling in circular paths. And thus the sun...
Finally, there was Ptolemy.
Learned men of science, I have listened to all your arguments. I now decree that our great Earth stands immovable as the hub of the universe, the supreme center of intelligent thinking.
Ptolemy's decree was blindly accepted, and space science was set back at least 1,000 years. They called it the Dark Ages because everyone was in the dark. It was an age of superstition and sorcery. With the Renaissance came a learned monk, Nicholas Copernicus. He proved with arithmetic that the Earth was not the center of the universe, but one of the many planets circling around the sun. In 1610, Galileo published his Sidereus Nuncius. It described the wonders of the heavens as seen through that great new invention, the telescope. The planets were not spots of light, but spheres, like the Earth. Jupiter had belts of color. Venus had phases like the moon. Saturn had a gorgeous ring, and Mars was round and red. Galileo had finally straightened things out up there. Perhaps the most closely observed heavenly body outside of Jane Moon's field is the moon itself. Now, this interest in the moon starts when we're just kids. Little kids. Look at these moons in every one of them. Oh, aren't kids' imaginations imaginative? Sometimes I wonder why I remain a bachelor. Oh, there's nothing like the pitter-patter of little voices.
The man in the moon came down too soon and asked his way to Maureen. He went to the south and burned his mouth to suffering home keeps pouring. Hey, diddle, diddle, the cat in the fiddle. The cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see the sport. And the
boy, that really gets you. I guess I'm just a sentimental old kook. Those cute little kids. But yet, how come if all little kids are so cute, where do all the homely grown-ups come from? You know, the moon has inspired more songwriters than any other planet. Because it rhymes better than Jupiter, you gotta admit. I'm a songwriter, too. I write songs on the side, and sometimes on my Bach. Or on my Beethoven, for that matter. All right, I shall now decompose a romantic little love ballad about the moon. La 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 dee ba 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 ba. Oh, that's beautiful. Ah, see, you gotta find middle C. See, senor. Ah, that's it. See the moon, wrinkled like a prune. Ooh, that's terrible. That's gonna own the tune. All right, let's see, what should it be? It looks like a baboon. Ooh, where did all that monkeying around come from? All right, let's see. Loon, goon, June. That's it. Goon. That fits the tune. Love will bloom, and you will coon. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. They don't call me the Bingle for nothing, you know. Well, anyway, you get the general idea, didn't you? Oh, here is some advice. Always design the cover first. It's the hardest part. All right, take it, boys.
I see the moon shining down on lovers, floating in a gloom. I see the moon on a sandy dune by a blue lagoon. All the hollyhocks in bloom fill the air with sweet perfume. Soon, pretty soon, love will bloom and you will croon. I see the moon that shines in June like a macaroon. I see the moon, we will sing it soon, rhyme it all with moon. Soon, soon, June and moon, there'll always be a honeymoon. Honey, 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 moon, moon, moon. I see the moon that shines in June like a macaroon. I see the moon, we will sing it soon, rhyme it all with moon. Soon, soon, June and moon, there'll always be a honeymoon. There'll always be a honeymoon.
Honey, honey, honeymoon, with Daniel Boone.
There'll always be a honeymoon.
Will it be a hit or a miss? It's going to be a hit, 'cause it didn't miss. All right, now to get back to you space travelers. Let's take a trip to the moon. Through my telescope, of course. This time I better fasten my seatbelt, too. Not 2, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fire! When you go out of this world, your first port of call will be the moon. It's only 237,000 miles away, our closest neighbor in space. And after all, we should get to know our neighbors better, shouldn't we? So let's take a peek at them. Whoop! They are looking at us. It's an invasion from outer space. Hey, wait a second. Get off of there, you kooky fly, you. All right. Now we can see out to interspace. Or is it into outer space? Well, what's the difference? We're gonna look anyway. Ooh, isn't our neighbor beautiful? Look how she shines over our great cities and brightens up the countryside. And like a beautiful woman, she admires her reflection in lakes and oceans. She's been doing this ever since life began on our Earth millions of years ago. No wonder primeval man was attracted by the moon. Legend tells the story of an old man who, while digging, discovered a small, shiny object. As he held it in his hand, it grew and grew and grew, and finally escaped into the sky to become the moon. To some, the moon was sort of a personality. Sometimes it had the face of a man, or better yet, a woman. Others even thought they saw a four-eyed leopard. But it wasn't the different faces that really threw them. It was the different phases. You know, the way it always changes its shape. The ancient Hindus believed it was their god of night, slowly turning his lamp as he moved across the sky. The Aegeans, on the other hand, thought the moon was a silver shield, reflecting the seas and the mountains of the earth. Moon worship was an important part of many ancient religions. The Sumerians called the moon Nana, and the golden calf with crescent horns was a symbol of reverence. This is the Egyptian moon god, Thoth. He was the chief timekeeper of that time, you know. 12 times between the annual rise of the Nile, the moon grew to fullness. This gave Egypt one of the first lunar year calendars. And here is Diana, the Grecian moon goddess, who was such a beauty the Romans built a silver temple in her honor. Some primitive people were scared out of their wits by an eclipse. They believed a giant serpent was devouring the sun's light, so they danced and made great noises to frighten the moon beast away. And away he would go. The author of the first book devoted completely to the moon was Plutarch. He said the moon was simply a smaller Earth, but unlike the Earth, its inhabitants were demons. This weird idea inspired one Lucian of Samosata to write what was perhaps the first science fiction story about a very strange journey to the moon in 160 A.D. A ship went sailing on western seas through the Pillars of Hercules. She sailed through a realm as dark as night, pursuing her course of lunar flight. The Moon King held his hand aloft and cried to far and near,
Begone, ye earthling creatures bold. There are no women here.
There followed upon the face of the earth a period called the Dark Ages. For centuries, the light of knowledge was extinguished, and only a fleeting mention of the moon was made.
Moon.
Then there was the great event of 1609, Galileo's telescope. After a close-up look at the moon, Galileo excitedly announced it as another world, complete with mountains and seas. When the astronomer-mathematician Johannes Kepler heard of Galileo's startling observations, he wrote a book about the moon called Somnium, or Sleep. In this very imaginative account, Kepler goes to sleep during an eclipse and is kidnapped by moon demons. Because they can't stand the light of the sun, they travel to and from the earth using the moon's shadow for a bridge. Here on the moon, Kepler awakes to see a fur-covered moon creature emerging during the cool of the evening.
Amazing.
Astounding! Kepler's experience inspired the English Bishop Francis Godwin to write a book called The Man in the Moon. Anyway, his hero is a Spanish gentleman exiled on St. Helena who escapes by building a flying machine propelled by bird power. He realizes too late that these birds are of a rare type that migrates all the way to the moon. However, the trip's interesting, and he finds that the moon's inhabitants vary in size according to their rank. Their only language is music. A few years later, the colorful Cyrano de Bergerac discusses the possibility of traveling to the moon. His close friends scoff at the idea. This drives Cyrano to prove his point by writing a unique science fiction moon trip. His own personal device for getting to the moon is a string of bottles containing dew. Now, anyone knows that as the sun rises, so do the morning dew, and so do Cyrano. His scheme works so well that he has to discard some of the dew bottles for fear of overshooting his mark. But alas, he drops one too many, misses the moon, and lands In Canada, the natives are very hostile. What to do? Build a rocket, of course. This time, he is more successful. When his fuel supply gives out, the moon's gravity helps him make a triumphant lunar landing. In 1835, a sensational news report appeared in the New York Sun. Sir John Herschel, noted astronomer, has discovered life on the moon. The account stated that Sir John, aided by a powerful new telescope, observed fantastic rock formations, strange plants, and hairy man-like creatures with bat wings who walked about in a dignified manner. There was animals, too, grazing bison and one-horned unigoat who was very playful. However, this whole story was, it was just a lot of baloney by a nutty reporter, that's what it was. It was a complete hoax. A moon hoax. Here we see the leading characters in Jules Verne's trip around the moon. These adventurers are given a fraternal blast-off by the brothers of the Baltimore Gun Club. After a very hazardous trip, the daring spacemen are given a hearty reception by the brothers of the Baltimore Gun Club. Frequent reference to the moon is made in great literature. Shakespearean societies have long delighted in such lunar lyrics as Romeo.
Arise, fair sun, and kill the envious moon.
Juliet.
Oh, swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon that monthly changes in her circled orb.
Othello.
It is the very era of the moon. She comes more nearer Earth than she was wont, and makes men mad.
The moon is the source of many odd beliefs and superstitions. One of the oldest sayings is that the moon is made of green cheese. Or that it is the resting place for all articles lost on Earth. It is said if a man sees a new moon through a window, misfortune will befall him. Or, if he cuts his hair under a new moon, it will grow back too fast. Meaning, a secret wish made to a new moon will come true. But it is unlucky to see the new moon over the right shoulder. A new moon is the time to begin things. This is a good time to get married, to build a house, and move into it. Caesar once said that the dark of the moon is a good time to start a battle. When the moon is on the wane, stuff your feather bed, wash your linen, mow your grass, cut your timber. Some farmers believe that the moon governs the planting of crops. They say that root-type crops should be planted during the dark of the moon, while the light of the full moon is the best time to plant the crops that grow above the ground. Also, medicines and tonics are said to be more efficient when taken during the full moon. In autumn, the full moon is the harvest moon. If the moon is a silver shield, be not afraid to reap your field. But if she rises haloed round, soon will tread on deluged ground. Pale moon doth rain, red moon doth blow. White moon doth neither rain nor snow. It has been said that money exposed to the dark of the moon will increase as the moon becomes full. Some even believe that the left hind foot of a rabbit procured in a graveyard during the dark of the moon will bring good luck. We are warned that sleeping in the lunar light will produce lunacy. From this supposition evolved such expressions as loony, lunatic, moonsick, moon mad, and moonstruck. And now, for the most important chapter in my space travel guide. Now, which one is the most important? There are so many of them. Ah, yes, here it is. Spaceship etiquette. You know, before you can plant your tootsies on another planet, you got to get there first. And behavior on a space trip will have to follow a whole new set of rules. Let's see how these rules will affect a typical Homo sapiens extraterrestrialis. Which means, as you all don't know, space traveler. And I guess a logical place to start would be at the takeoff. And boy, if you haven't done it before, it's going to be quite an experience when you are fired into space. You get an inkling of this when you are riding in an automobile. Step on the gas and you're pressed against the back of the seat. The body is resisting the change of motion. On the other hand, when coming to a stop, there is a tendency for the body to move forward. We have made tests with rocket sleds that duplicate the stresses of an actual takeoff. Here's another test using a machine that creates a centrifugal force. It's like a runaway merry-go-round. Put a man in it, spin him around, and he experiences the pressure of gravity. More speed, more pressure. More speed, more pressure. The faster you go, the flatter you get. What a way to die. From tests like this, I made an important discovery. When a spaceship takes off, you gotta lie down. I don't gotta lie down because I'm not going. When you are in a reclining position, the stresses are more evenly distributed. This makes it possible to stand pressures of over 9 times your weight as the spaceship blasts off. When the rocket engine finally stops, you'll face another problem. You won't weigh anything. In space, everything has the same weight, or rather, no weight at all. Man, a feather, a bubble, or a piece of iron, all weigh the same. However, man is designed to live with gravity, that down-pulling force which Sir Isaac Newton first explained.
Any two bodies attract each other with a force which is proportional to the product of their masses and inversely proportional to the square of the distance between them. Or, what goes up must come down.
Loud alarm signals sound throughout the nervous system whenever we are in danger of stumbling or falling. But weightlessness is not such an unusual experience. You feel it for a moment in a dive, on a roller coaster, in an elevator. But cut the cable and you'd have the exact feeling of weightlessness in space till you hit the bottom. It takes iron nerves waiting for the impact that never comes. But you'll get used to it. Just like you'll have to get used to the fact that up and down no longer exist. And until you do, you may become dizzy. You got to learn to guide yourself only with your eyes. You beginners can combat dizziness by fixing your eyes upon a single object. I guess you don't object to this object. You know, a space traveler can't move like he does on the ground. because your slightest movement will be violently magnified. Your muscles are adjusted to normal earthbound gravity. Just remember these rules. In space, there's a tendency to spin. And the more compact you make yourself, the more you spin. So don't get compact, you nut, you. Spread your arms and your legs and you slow down. In fact, after a trip or two, you should be able to dog paddle like a fish through the air. A flying fish. For you non-swimmers, we'll provide a web of ropes till you learn to move about. After all, weightlessness is something you are going to have to learn to live with. On Earth, the atmosphere protects us from dangers in space. But out there, it's different. For instance, your spaceship might bump into a swarm of cosmic rays. But don't worry about it. We've all been stung before. Oops. After all, there could be bigger problems, like a meteorite. Look out! But in case one should puncture the walls of your spaceship, just plug it up. Because if you don't, you couldn't last more than 15 seconds in the vacuum of outer space without a spacesuit. Besides, the intense radiation of the sun would barbecue you on one side and freeze you on the other. So be prepared. Be sure to bring along a spacesuit, and be sure it's from a reputable manufacturer. You don't want to stint around here. In choosing it, make sure the suit is flexible, airtight, and carries plenty of oxygen. Most standard brands feature built-in all-purpose equipment. Besides protection, look for maneuverability. Standard equipment should include a portable rocket unit for propulsion.
Action, reaction.
Probably the most unique problem you're going to face on your cruise into space is eating and drinking. The cocktail hour on your cruise in space will be loaded with problems, you know. What cocktail hour isn't? Because liquids will not pour, you got to use a titration tube, forcing the liquid into the spot you want it. And unless that spot is leak-proof, it'll escape and float all over the place until everything is covered with a wet film. Plastic bottles are used so that liquids can be squeezed out. Thank you, Mommy. Meals will be cooked in closed containers by radio frequency shortwave. In space, you won't have to worry about a proper fork to use. Just grab the sugar tongs. You can forget about dieting out there, too. You might look like a fat slob, but you'll never be overweight. On a space cruise, even recreation is different. Instead of shuffleboard, we got three-dimensional pools. And so to bed. And another new experience. No mattress, no pillow. Just a net to keep you from drifting in your sleep. Like sleeping on a cloud, floating through the incomprehensible nothingness of space, with your mind free from the everyday problems down here on Earth. Because, man, you've got enough to worry about up there in space. Up. As I've told you before, the moon is just your first stop on your trip into outer space. Beyond are many exciting spots to visit. There's Mars, Neptune, Venus, Long Beach. What Long Beach? What am I saying? And don't miss Pluto. Ooh, it's a must. Of course, to visit those, you're going to need a longer vacation, like, say, a year or 2 or 3 or 4. But it'll be worth it. Jupiter, for example, has 12 moons. That's a lot of moonshine. They're handy for side trips. And you can travel around Saturn on space's largest freeway. The Venus out there is just as beautiful as the Venus down here. Mars is probably the most popular stopping place of all. So if you plan to visit it, you better get your reservations in early. You know, for years, people have been speculating about life on other planets. One of the first was the romantic Frenchman, Bernard de Fontenelle. While walking with a young lady in a garden, he discusses with her the possibility of life on other worlds. She is delighted with the prospect of learning astronomy.
The sun is a boiling ball of liquid gold. The inhabitants cannot see these riches. They are blind. Mercury is so close to the sun that the people are crazy with the heat. Venus is a planet of passion. People do not cook because they live on air, music, and love. The men of Saturn are very cold and miserable. They never move from the spot where they are born. Jupiter is so big that people never see or meet other people. Mars is very populated with luminous birds who do not fly.
And here are some ideas by a Swedish philosopher. I try out my Swedish. The people of Mercury is very thin. They have tremendous memories. Their cattle is extremely small. The natives of Jupiter is pretty. They do not lie or steal, but they is terrified at the sight of their giant Jupiter divorces. There are 2 kinds of people on Venus. Mild people and wild people. Inhabitants of Mars is clothed in fibers. They converse by means of thought transference. During the 19th century, Mars was regarded as the planet most likely to harbor life, especially after some kooky astronomers thought they saw specks of light appear on the surface of the red planet. Many people believed these were attempts to signal the Earth, and plans were laid to build a gigantic mirror to return the friendly greetings. Kurt Laswitz thrilled the world with his story about a crew of Earthmen who are captured by a magnetic Martian spaceship. The Earthmen are taken to Mars, where they are wined and dined on tasty synthetic food. Where'd he go? There he is. In a story by Robert Brain called Messages from Mars, a sailor is marooned on a lonely island off Madagascar. He discovers a rare and powerful telescope plant, which he immediately focuses on Mars. The Martians he sees are exactly 10 feet tall. Their favorite culture is music, which they inhale in great quantities through their noses. And as the 20th century dawned, H.G. Wells excited countless imaginations with his approach to life on Mars. In his War of the Worlds, he describes an invasion of the Earth by octopus-like creatures who is encased in joy and fighting machines. With their heat rays and poisonous gases, they are quite invincible until they encounter the, guess what, common germs in our atmosphere. Mr. Wells followed his science fiction story with a more serious discussion. He reasoned that plants would grow taller and thinner in the weaker gravity of Mars, and insects would probably be larger than those on Earth. The Martian animals covered with fur or feathers during winter would lose their coverings with the coming of summer. The people of Mars would probably walk on their hind legs, their barrel-chested bodies covered with a coating of down. Their ample craniums would be crammed with intelligence, and their trunk-like noses would be indispensable for feats of engineering. Very event. Novelist Edgar Rice Burroughs supplied his readers with a complete Martian dictionary. Barsoomian, warlike people on Mars. Human bipeds with variegated color characteristics. Banff, Martian lion, dwells in Dead Sea areas. Is carnivorous, has 10 legs. Kalat, a pony-sized Martian dog with a frog-like head. Thoth, a dog-sized Martian horse with about 8 legs. Martian plant man, half human, half plant, 10 feet tall, has one white-ringed protruding eye. Oh. Through the years, there have been frequent rumors that Martians disguised as Earthmen walk among us. That's silly. These stories is perhaps strengthened by the thousands of reports of unidentified flying objects passing in an endless procession across our skies. Today, there's tons of junk written about life that is supposed to be on these planets. Look at some of these titles. True fantastic comics. Super horrible comics. Impossible science comics. Impossible is right. This stuff is so full of baloney. Come to think of it, I like baloney, though, so I think I'll take a little potluck. But you boy, this one's going to be hard to swallow. Like all the others, it starts at an ultra-secret government space project. And the hero is a young electronics genius who is always busy formulating new laws of thermodynamics and astrophysics and how much is 2 and 3. The heroine is his secretary. Efficient, hard-working, and rather attractive. Of course, the villain is a mechanical robot from Mars. Naturally, what else? He's usually controlled by a mastermind whose appearance is so horrible we can't reveal it at this time. The escape device is a late-model electrophlegmatic flying saucer. The same old story plot, too. Concerns the lack of some precious element on Mars, like women?
Take a letter, Miss Smith. Gentlemen, after due consideration and thorough calculation, it is my unequivocal opinion that there is absolutely no life on the planet Mars.
I tell you, the science fiction is really science friction, because it's rubbing me the wrong way. The only truth in it was what that kooky scientist said. There is no life on Mars. The rest is pure hogwash. Figments of the imagination. And I'll say it again and again, and I'll say it again. There are no such things as Martian monsters. So feel free to take the trip. But be sure to take along my space travel guide. Don't worry about the size. It'll be weightless in space. Bon voyage!